The monster was supposed to kill her. That was what everyone said. That was what the guards whispered whenever they descended into the forbidden depths beneath the royal castle. No one survived the creature chained beneath the stone. No one survived its hunger, its rage, its screams. Yet on the night destiny finally awakened, a forgotten Omega girl stood before the most feared beast in the kingdom and did something no warrior, mage, or noble had ever dared to do.
She sang.
Not a spell, not a prayer, a lullaby. And as her voice drifted through the darkness, the monster stopped roaring. The chains stopped rattling. The dungeon fell silent. Because the creature staring back at her was not a beast. It was a king cursed by betrayal. A king consumed by darkness. A king who had forgotten his own humanity. Until he heard her voice. And far above them, hidden behind castle walls, someone watched in horror. Because the curse that had imprisoned the Alpha King for months had just begun to break. Winter ruled the kingdom like a cruel god. The sky had forgotten sunlight. For weeks, gray clouds had smothered the horizon, casting the entire realm beneath a blanket of endless cold and silence. The capital city of Blackthorne stood beneath layers of snow and fear. Market stalls closed before sunset. Children no longer played in the streets. People lowered their voices whenever the missing king was mentioned, because nobody truly knew what had happened to King Kael Draven. Officially, the royal court claimed he suffered from a mysterious illness. Unofficially, the kingdom whispered darker things. Some claimed assassins had murdered him. Others believed ancient enemies had stolen him away. And some swore they heard monstrous howls beneath the castle every night. Howls that did not sound human. Howls that sounded hungry. Inside the castle, hidden from the eyes of nobles and royals alike, Elara Vale scrubbed frozen stone floors on her knees. Her hands were red from cold. Her dress was patched and worn. Her stomach ached with hunger. Yet none of that hurt as much as the laughter. The noble women passing through the corridor barely glanced at her. To them she was invisible, disposable, a servant, an Omega, one of the weakest bloodlines in existence. Careful, one noble girl sneered as she walked by. I nearly stepped on her. Laughter followed. Cruel, effortless, familiar. Elara lowered her eyes, not because she believed them, but because fighting back never changed anything. The moment the nobles disappeared around the corner, silence returned. She released a slow breath, then stood. Something small moved beneath a nearby staircase. A tiny injured bird, its wing bent awkwardly, its body trembling from cold. Elara immediately crouched beside it. Unlike people, animals never looked at her with disgust, never mocked her, never judged her. Softly, she gathered the tiny creature into her hands. It's all right, she whispered. The bird relaxed almost instantly. Warm golden light flickered faintly beneath her fingertips. Barely visible, barely there, yet enough. The bird stopped shaking. Its frightened heartbeat slowed. And for a brief moment, Elara felt the pain leave its tiny body. The strange gift had always frightened her. She never understood it, only that her mother once called it a blessing. Before her mother disappeared forever, the memory hurt. It always did. So she pushed it away, like she always did. Before sadness could settle, a harsh voice echoed through the hallway. Girl. Elara turned. A castle guard stood waiting, his expression uneasy, almost nervous. Come with me. Her stomach tightened. What happened? The guard hesitated, then looked away. You've been assigned dungeon duty. The color drained from her face. Dungeon duty. Everyone knew what that meant. The lower levels. The forbidden levels. The place nobody wanted to go. The place where screams echoed at night. The guard noticed her fear. For a moment his expression softened. Almost. Then it vanished. Move. Snow battered the castle windows as they descended. One staircase. Then another. Then another. The deeper they traveled, the colder the air became.
The walls changed.
Old stone replaced polished marble. Torches flickered weakly. Ancient symbols covered the corridors. Symbols scratched into the walls centuries ago. Warnings. protections, prisons. The further they descended, the louder the sounds became. Heavy chains, distant growls, something striking stone. Again, and again, and again. Elara's pulse quickened. The guard stopped before a massive iron door. Unlike anything she had ever seen, silver runes glowed across its surface. Magic. Powerful magic. The kind reserved for monsters. The guard shoved a food tray into her hands. You take it from here. Elara stared. Aren't you coming? The man looked genuinely horrified.
No.
Before she could answer, he turned and hurried away, leaving her alone. The silence that followed felt wrong. Heavy. Watching. Slowly, she pushed the enormous door open. The hinges groaned. Darkness greeted her. The dungeon stretched endlessly before her. Cold stone, rusting chains, shadows. And somewhere within them, something breathed. A deep sound echoed through the chamber. Not human, not animal. Something between both. Elara forced herself forward. One step, then another. The tray trembled in her hands. Suddenly, a roar exploded through the darkness. The walls shook. The torches flickered violently. The tray crashed from her fingers. Metal clattered across stone. And then she saw him. Two glowing golden eyes. Watching. Waiting. A massive black shape emerged from the shadows. The wolf was enormous. Far larger than any natural creature. The dungeon fell silent. Not ordinary silence. Not the peaceful quiet that came after a storm. This silence felt alive. Waiting. Watching. Breathing. Elara stood frozen beside the iron door, every muscle locked in place as the torchlight flickered across the massive wolf's face. The creature was staring directly at her. Golden eyes unblinking. Ancient. Intelligent. Impossible. And then there was the word. Her name. The sound of it still echoed through the darkness. Elara. Not growled. Not howled. Spoken. A human voice hidden beneath a monster's throat. Fear should have sent her running. Instead, confusion rooted her feet to the stone. The wolf remained motionless. His chest rose and fell slowly. The violence from earlier was gone. The fury, the madness, the hunger, all replaced by something she could not understand. Recognition. As if he knew her. As if he had been searching for her. A cold shiver traveled down her spine.
How?
She whispered. The creature's ears twitched. For a brief moment, something almost human flashed behind those golden eyes. Then it vanished. The wolf lowered his head. The connection disappeared. The dungeon became a prison again. Elara stared for several long seconds before forcing herself to move. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Questions chased one another through her mind. Monsters did not speak. Monsters did not know names. Monsters certainly did not look at people with sadness. Yet this one had. And somehow that frightened her more than his teeth ever could. She hurried from the dungeon. But all night she could not sleep. Because every time she closed her eyes, she saw those golden eyes staring back at her. And heard her name whispered from the darkness. The next evening, snow continued falling across Blackthorne Castle. Wind screamed against ancient towers. The kingdom itself seemed restless, uneasy, as though something beneath the earth had begun to awaken. Elara carried another tray toward the lower levels. This time nobody needed to order her. She had spent the entire day trying to convince herself not to return, trying to forget, trying to be sensible. But curiosity was stronger. And beneath curiosity lurked something more dangerous. Concern. The realization irritated her. Why should she care about a monster? Why should she care about anything hidden beneath those walls? Yet she did. And that frightened her. The dungeon door groaned open. Cold air immediately wrapped around her skin. The familiar darkness welcomed her back. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then she heard movement. Heavy paws crossing stone. The wolf emerged from the shadows. This time, he did not roar, did not lunge, did not bare his teeth. He simply watched, waiting. The tray trembled slightly in her hands. You remember me. The statement escaped before she could stop herself. The wolf's gaze sharpened. A strange expression crossed his face. Not animal. Human. The realization made her pulse quicken. Slowly she placed the tray near the bars. The wolf approached. Closer. Closer. Every instinct screamed danger. Yet something deeper told her he would never harm her. The realization made no sense. She barely knew him, yet somehow she trusted him. The wolf lowered his massive head and began eating. For several minutes, only silence existed between them. Then, a rough voice emerged again. Broken. Painfully strained. Song. Elara blinked. The wolf lifted his head. Song. His voice sounded like someone speaking through shattered glass, as if the words themselves caused pain. Realization dawned. You want me to sing? The creature stared, waiting. And for reasons she could not explain, she smiled. A small smile. The first genuine smile she had felt in weeks. Then she began singing. The lullaby drifted through the chamber.
Soft.
Gentle. Ancient. The wolf immediately relaxed. His eyes slowly closed. The tension left his body. The chains stopped rattling. And hidden beneath centuries of pain, a forgotten memory stirred. Far away within the depths of his fractured mind, Kael Draven remembered sunlight. He remembered battlefields.
Crowns. Victory.
Power. He remembered standing upon a throne while thousands bowed before him. He remembered being feared, respected, untouchable. Then came betrayal. A knife. A curse. Darkness. Months of endless rage trapped inside a monster's body. Months of screaming until language itself disappeared. Months of becoming less human every day, until her voice, the girl, the omega, the song. Every note pulled him back from the abyss. Every visit restored another fragment of himself. A memory, a thought, a feeling, hope. For the first time since his imprisonment, Kael remembered what it felt like to be alive. Days became weeks. Weeks became routine. Every evening Elara descended into the dungeon. Every evening the wolf waited. Their conversations began slowly.
Awkwardly.
Two lonely souls separated by iron bars. And yet somehow closer than anyone else in the kingdom. You never tell me your name, Elara said one night. The wolf remained silent. Golden eyes fixed upon the flames, as if considering whether names still belonged to him. Finally he answered. Forgot. The lie was obvious, but she did not challenge it. Instead she sat beside the bars. I used to wish someone would come looking for me. The confession surprised even her. The wolf's gaze shifted toward her. My mother disappeared when I was little. Her voice softened. After that, nobody stayed. The creature listened. Not out of politeness, not out of obligation, but because he genuinely wanted to hear her. And somehow she sensed that. The realization warmed something inside her chest. For several moments, silence settled between them. Then the wolf spoke. 3 words. Quiet. Heavy. Filled with pain. They left me. Elara looked up. Their eyes met. And suddenly she understood. Not the details. Not the truth. But the feeling. Abandonment. Betrayal. Loneliness. Whatever he was. Whatever had happened to him. Someone had hurt him deeply. The realization made her heart ache. Above them, the kingdom edged closer to disaster. The royal court was unraveling. Nobles argued openly. Power shifted like a blade moving through shadows. Without the Alpha King, factions emerged. Alliances broke. Greed flourished. And standing at the center of it all was Lady Seraphine. Beautiful, elegant, dangerous. She stood before assembled nobles beneath glittering chandeliers. The kingdom needs stability, she declared. The king has been gone for months. Whispers spread instantly. Agreement. Support. Submission. Exactly as she intended. But behind her perfect smile lurked growing fear. Because every night her enchanted mirrors showed the same thing. The curse weakening. The wolf remembering. The Omega girl healing wounds that should never heal. And Seraphine knew something nobody else did. If Kael fully regained himself, everything she built would collapse. The next night arrived beneath a full moon. Silver light spilled through narrow dungeon windows. The atmosphere felt strange.
Wrong.
Even before Elara entered, the wolf sensed it immediately. His body stiffened, ears flattening, growls vibrating deep inside his chest. Elara frowned. What is it? The answer came moments later. Steel flashed inside the darkness. A shadow moved. Then another. Then another. Assassins. 5 of them, hidden beneath cloaks enchanted against detection. They emerged from the shadows with drawn blades. Their target wasn't Elara. It was the wolf. One assassin lunged. Everything exploded into chaos. The wolf roared. Chains shattered. Stone cracked. The entire dungeon trembled. Elara screamed as steel flashed toward her. An assassin had changed targets. Toward her. Toward the girl. Toward the weakness. The blade never reached her, because the wolf moved first. Faster than thought. Faster than fear. Massive jaws slammed into the assassin. The attacker crashed across the chamber, bones breaking instantly. Another assassin struck. Then another. The dungeon transformed into a battlefield.
Blood.
Steel.
Roars.
Magic. Violence. And through it all, the wolf never left Elara's side, protecting her, shielding her, choosing her. Then, moonlight poured through a shattered window. Silver illumination struck the wolf directly. The curse reacted. Dark energy erupted across his body. The beast staggered,
Roared. Collapsed.
and for one impossible second, the monster disappeared. Elara's eyes widened. Her breath stopped, because kneeling where the wolf had stood was a man.
Tall.
Powerful,
Scarred.
with black hair, golden eyes, and the unmistakable face stamped upon every royal coin in existence. The face of the missing ruler. The face of the feared Alpha King, King Kael Draven. The transformation lasted only a heartbeat. Then darkness exploded once more. The wolf returned. The curse reclaimed him. But it was already too late. Elara had seen the truth. The monster beneath the castle. The beast chained in darkness. The creature she had been singing to every night was the Alpha King. And suddenly she realized she was standing inside the kingdom's most dangerous secret. For several seconds after the transformation vanished, Elara could not breathe. The dungeon seemed to tilt beneath her feet. The torches blurred. The cold air felt suddenly too thin, too sharp, too real. King Kael Draven, the missing ruler, the feared Alpha King, the man whose disappearance had thrown an entire kingdom into chaos. The monster chained beneath the castle. They were the same person. The realization crashed through her mind like thunder. Across the chamber, the wolf remained motionless, golden eyes fixed upon her, waiting, watching, as if he already knew exactly what she had seen. Blood stained the dungeon floor. The bodies of the assassins lay scattered among broken stone and shattered chains. The battle was over, yet neither of them moved. Neither of them spoke, because everything had changed. At last, Elara found her voice. You. The word barely escaped her lips. The wolf lowered his head. Not in submission. Not in shame. Something far more painful. Acceptance. As though he had expected this moment from the very beginning. As though he already knew what came next.
Fear.
Rejection. Abandonment. The same fate everyone else had chosen. A cold ache settled inside Kael's chest. Even through the curse, he could feel it. Because despite everything, despite crowns and wars and power, he suddenly realized one terrifying truth. He cared what she thought. Far more than he should. Far more than a king ever should. Far more than a monster could afford. The realization angered him. And frightened him. Because feelings created weakness. Weakness created vulnerability. And vulnerability had already destroyed him once. Elara slowly stepped forward. The movement caught him off guard. Every other person who learned the truth recoiled. Every other person feared him. Yet she walked closer. Not away. Closer. The scent of winter roses drifted from her skin.
Soft. Warm. Alive.
The wolf remained perfectly still. Then Elara whispered something he never expected to hear. You were alone this entire time. No fear. No accusation. Only sadness. The words struck harder than any weapon, because nobody had asked how he felt. Nobody had cared. Not since the curse. Not since the betrayal. For a moment neither spoke. Then Kael's broken voice emerged.
Raw.
Painful. Almost forgotten. Leave. Elara blinked. What? Leave. The word came harsher this time. A growl hidden beneath it. A command. The Alpha King. Even trapped inside a monster's body, authority still flowed through him like blood. Yet Elara refused to move. You saved me. Silence. You protected me. More silence. Then slowly, Kael turned away, as if looking at her hurt too much. You know what I am now. The words emerged rough and bitter. Go. Elara stared at him, at the scars covering his body, at the chains that had nearly become his grave, at the loneliness hidden behind his anger. And suddenly she understood something. The king wasn't ordering her away because he hated her. He was ordering her away because he expected her to leave anyway. The realization shattered something inside her, because she knew exactly what that felt like. Without another word, she sat down beside the bars. Kael froze. The dungeon became silent once more. Then Elara folded her arms across her knees. I'm staying. The wolf slowly looked back at her. Shock flickered inside his golden eyes, followed by something far more dangerous. Hope. Days passed. Then weeks. Winter deepened around the kingdom. Snow swallowed roads. Ice covered rivers. And beneath the castle, something impossible continued growing. Trust. Every night Elara returned. Every night Kael waited. The distance between them slowly disappeared. Not physically. The iron bars remained. The curse remained. But emotionally, the walls began crumbling. One conversation at a time. One confession at a time. One moment of vulnerability at a time. The dungeon that once felt like a prison slowly became a sanctuary. The only place in the kingdom where neither of them needed masks. One evening Elara arrived carrying a lantern and a small bundle of books. Kael watched curiously. What is this? The words came easier now. His voice remained rough. Broken. But undeniably human. Elara smiled. You forgot how to read. The wolf glared. She laughed softly. A dangerous sound. Dangerous because Kael had begun craving it. Because every time she smiled, the darkness inside him retreated. I did not forget. You forgot. I did not. You absolutely did. The wolf released a frustrated growl. Elara laughed again. And for the first time in months, Kael almost smiled. The realization shocked him. Kings did not smile. Not often. Not freely. Not after betrayal. Yet around her, he remembered how. Far above them, however, darkness continued gathering. Lady Seraphine stood alone inside her private chambers. Moonlight spilled across polished marble. The enchanted mirror before her shimmered, revealing everything. Elara.
Kael.
Their growing connection. The curse weakening. The king recovering. The woman watched silently. Her nails dug into her palms. The sight filled her with rage. Years. She had spent years planning, manipulating, destroying. Everything had gone perfectly. Kael had trusted her, believed her, loved her like family. And she had used that trust to destroy him. The curse should have been permanent. The kingdom should already belong to her. Yet a servant girl threatened everything. An omega. A nobody. A mistake. The thought made her jaw tighten. The mirror reflected Elara laughing beside the dungeon bars. Kael, watching her, protecting her, choosing her. Seraphine's eyes darkened.
No.
The whisper echoed through the room. You belong to me. The statement carried years of obsession, years of jealousy, years of hatred. And for the first time, she realized Elara was not merely an inconvenience. She was a threat, a genuine threat, which meant she needed to be removed. Immediately. Meanwhile, Kael continued recovering. The curse weakened little by little. Some nights he could hold a human form for several minutes. Other nights only seconds. Yet every transformation lasted longer than before. Every transformation brought another memory, another piece of himself. One snowy evening he stood in human form inside the dungeon.
Tall.
Powerful, broad-shouldered, even weakened, he radiated authority. The Alpha King. The true Alpha King. Elara stood nearby, unable to hide her amazement. Seeing him, human felt different, dangerously different. As a wolf, he was terrifying. As a man, he was devastating. His black hair brushed his shoulders. Golden eyes glowed like firelight. Scars covered his skin, visible reminders of war and betrayal. Yet none diminished him. If anything, they made him more dangerous, more real. Kael noticed her staring. A faint smirk appeared. "You keep looking." Heat immediately rushed into Elara's face. "I am not. You are." "I was checking the curse." "Liar." The word emerged with surprising amusement. For one brief moment, the dungeon no longer felt cursed. No monsters. No kings. No servants. Only two people discovering what happiness felt like. And that terrified them both. Because happiness created something neither could control. Attachment. Days later, whispers began spreading throughout the castle. Servants talked. Guards noticed things. Rumors multiplied. The king's disappearance. The mysterious Omega. The forbidden dungeon. The connection. The story evolved with every retelling, until eventually it reached the noble court. Mockery followed immediately. An Omega servant? Impossible. She manipulated him. She's using him. Gold digger. Enchantress. Schemer. Elara became the target of every cruel tongue in the kingdom. At first she ignored it, but the words hurt, because part of her feared they might be true. Not manipulation. The feelings. The attachment. The growing bond she could no longer deny. The realization terrified her, because Kael was a king, and she was nobody. That fear became Seraphine's weapon. One night, hidden inside her chambers, she began creating the trap. Forged letters, false witnesses, fabricated evidence. Each lie carefully crafted, each deception designed to exploit Kael's greatest weakness, betrayal, because she knew something Elara did not. The curse was not Kael's deepest wound. The betrayal that created it was. And wounds like that never truly healed. They simply waited, waiting for the perfect moment to reopen. By dawn, the trap was complete. And Seraphine smiled, because she knew exactly how the story would end. 3 nights later, Elara entered the dungeon carrying food. The atmosphere felt strange, heavy.
Wrong.
Kael stood motionless near the bars.
His human form active.
Golden eyes unreadable. No smile. No warmth. No relief at seeing her. A cold feeling settled in her stomach. Kael. The king slowly turned. Something dark flickered behind his eyes. Something wounded. Something dangerous. Then, without a word, he tossed a stack of letters onto the stone floor between them. Letters bearing her name. Letters claiming she worked for his enemies. Letters describing a conspiracy. A betrayal. Elara's blood ran cold, because she had never seen them before. And Kael looked as though he believed every word. The silence stretched. Heavy. Terrible. Then the Alpha King's voice emerged. Cold as winter itself. "Tell me the truth." Elara stared at the forged letters, then back at him. And for the first time, since she met him, she felt fear. Not of the monster. Not of the curse. But of the man. Because the look in Kael's eyes reminded her of something she had forgotten. Before he became her friend, before he became the broken soul she wanted to heal, he had been the most feared ruler in the kingdom. And suddenly that ruler was looking at her as if she might be his enemy. The dungeon felt colder than it ever had before. Not because winter had deepened. Not because icy winds whispered through the cracks in the ancient stone. But because the warmth that had slowly grown between them was suddenly gone. Completely gone. The forged letters lay scattered across the floor like poison blades. Every page carried accusations. Every sentence dripped with betrayal. And standing on opposite sides of the dungeon, Elara and Kael stared at one another through a silence that felt impossible to cross. For weeks, they had shared truths.
Pain.
Loneliness. Hope. Now a handful of papers threatened to destroy all of it. Elara slowly picked up one of the letters. Her hands trembled. The handwriting looked convincing. The royal seals looked authentic. The accusations were devastating. She supposedly worked for foreign enemies. She supposedly manipulated the king. She supposedly used her healing gift to weaken his mind and gain influence over him. The lies were crafted perfectly. Too perfectly. Someone had spent time creating them. Someone intelligent. Someone dangerous. Someone who understood exactly where to strike. Elara lifted her gaze. These aren't real. Kael said nothing. The silence hurt more than any accusation. Because weeks ago he would have believed her immediately. Weeks ago he would have trusted her. Now uncertainty darkened his expression. The sight broke something inside her. You think I did this? His jaw tightened. His golden eyes shifted away. And that tiny movement told her everything. Not certainty. Not yet. But doubt. Doubt had entered his heart. And doubt was enough. Because betrayal had already destroyed him once. The curse wasn't merely magic. It was trauma given form. Every wound Seraphine had inflicted still lived inside him. Waiting. Bleeding. Unhealed. Kael's voice finally emerged.
Low.
Dangerous. You knew my identity before anyone else. Elara blinked. What? You had access to me. The words grew colder. You knew where I was. Realization dawned. The trap. Someone wasn't trying to frame her. Someone was trying to weaponize Kael's fear. And it was working. The king took another step back.
Distance.
The first real distance between them since the night they met. Kael. The sound of his name softened. Almost pleading. But the Alpha King flinched. As though hearing affection hurt more than hatred. That single reaction shattered her heart. Because she suddenly understood something terrifying. The man before her wanted to believe her. But the broken parts inside him were louder. The parts created by betrayal. The parts created by pain. The parts that whispered, everyone leaves eventually. Everyone lies eventually. Everyone betrays eventually. Even her. Especially her. Because she mattered. And the people who mattered always caused the deepest wounds. Kael turned away. His fists clenched. The curse rippled beneath his skin. Dark veins spread across his neck. The wolf inside him stirred. Restless. Violent.
Angry.
Not at Elara. At himself. At the confusion. At the weakness. At the impossible hope she had created. For weeks, she had become the center of his world. The one person who looked beyond the monster. The one person who made him feel human. The one person whose presence quieted the darkness. And now he feared she might have been lying from the beginning. The thought was unbearable. Because if she wasn't real, then nothing was. The silence stretched painfully. Then Kael spoke. For words that changed everything. Leave me, Elara. Her breath caught. The dungeon suddenly felt too small. Too suffocating. I won't. His eyes closed. Pain flickered across his face. Visible for only a moment. Then vanished behind the king. Behind the ruler. Behind the monster. When he opened his eyes again, warmth was gone. Only authority remained. Only power. Only judgment. And Elara realized with horror that the Alpha King had returned. Not the wounded man. The king. The king who survived by trusting nobody. The king who ruled through fear. The king who could order executions without blinking. The king who no longer knew how to protect his own heart. The following morning, the royal court assembled. Word spread through the castle like wildfire. Servants whispered. Nobles smiled. Guards exchanged uneasy glances. Something was happening. Something terrible. Inside the throne room, hundreds gathered beneath towering stained glass windows. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. And hidden among the crowd, Lady Seraphine watched quietly, satisfied. Every piece had moved exactly where she wanted. Every lie had landed perfectly. The trap had closed. Now all she needed was the final blow, The massive doors opened. Elara entered. Gasps immediately spread through the room. Whispers followed. Cruel whispers. Judgmental whispers. The same people who ignored her weeks ago now stared as though she were a criminal. At the far end of the hall sat Kael. Human. Powerful. Terrifying. The sight stunned the crowd. Many had not seen their king in months. Yet celebration never came, because his expression was carved from ice. His golden eyes remained fixed on Elara, emotionless. The distance between them felt endless. Lady Seraphine stepped forward, elegant as ever. Evidence has emerged suggesting Lady Elara Vale manipulated the king during his period of illness. Murmurs erupted, exactly as planned. Witnesses appeared. False witnesses. Bribed witnesses. Each one repeating the same lies. Each one strengthening the illusion. Elara listened in disbelief. The accusations became more outrageous with every passing minute. Yet nobody questioned them. Because lies are powerful when people want them to be true. And the nobles desperately wanted them to be true. An Omega servant rising above her station threatened their entire world. Destroying her was easier than accepting her. Finally, Seraphine turned toward the throne. Your Majesty. Her voice dripped with false sympathy. What is your judgment? The room fell silent. Every eye shifted toward Kael. Every breath seemed to stop. Elara looked at him. Not the king. The man. The man who had shared stories beneath the dungeon. The man who trusted her. The man she had slowly begun loving. Please. The silent plea echoed inside her chest. Look at me. Remember me. Remember us. For one brief second, Kael's gaze softened. A crack. A hesitation. A battle. The entire kingdom balanced on that moment. Then the wound inside him won. The old betrayal. The fear. The doubt. The trauma. They swallowed everything else. Kael rose from the throne. His voice echoed across the hall. Cold. Final. Absolute. Elara Vale is hereby exiled from the kingdom. The world stopped. No screams. No protests. No dramatic collapse. Only silence. The kind of silence that arrives when a heart breaks. Elara stared at him, unable to breathe, unable to move, unable to believe what she had heard. Months of trust.
Gone.
Weeks of healing.
Gone.
Everything.
Gone.
And the worst part? Kael looked just as broken. At sunset, Elara crossed the kingdom's northern gate. Snow fell heavily around her. The guards refused to meet her eyes. Nobody spoke. Nobody stopped her. Nobody cared. The massive gates slowly opened, then closed behind her. The sound echoed through the mountains. Final.
Permanent.
And in that moment, something exploded inside the castle.
A roar.
Monstrous.
Terrifying.
Agonized. The sound shook the kingdom itself. Elara froze. Far behind her, black energy erupted above the royal towers. Dark clouds formed instantly. Lightning flashed. The curse. The curse was growing stronger. Because she was gone. Inside the castle, Kael collapsed to his knees. Pain ripped through his body. The wolf surged violently beneath his skin. The curse consumed every inch of him. Chains shattered. Walls cracked. Guards fled in terror. And through the agony, only one thought remained. Elara. The name echoed through every fragment of his soul. Because despite everything, despite the exile, despite the lies, his heart knew something his fear refused to admit. He had made a mistake. A terrible mistake. But by the time realization arrived, she was already gone. Weeks became months. Winter became survival. Exile became transformation. The wilderness proved merciless. Hunger.
Cold.
Predators. Loneliness. Every day tested Elara. Every day demanded more than she believed she possessed. Yet somehow she survived. Again. And again. And again. The weak servant slowly disappeared. The frightened Omega faded. Something stronger emerged. Something ancient. One moonless night, while sheltering inside forgotten ruins deep within the mountains, Elara discovered symbols carved into black stone. Symbols identical to the ones hidden beneath the dungeon. Ancient runes. Ancient magic. Ancient truth. The moment her fingers touched them, golden light erupted around her. Memories flooded her mind. Voices.
Songs.
Visions. Generations of forgotten women. Powerful women.
Queens. Healers.
Guardians. And suddenly she understood. Her gift was not small.
Not weak.
Not accidental. It was royal. Ancient. Sacred. She had never been powerless. The world had simply convinced her she was. Tears filled her eyes. Not from sadness. From realization. From awakening. From becoming. Then another vision appeared. A woman cloaked in golden light. An ancestor. A warning. A truth. 3 words echoed through the ruins. Words that changed everything. Seraphine made it. Elara froze. The vision continued. Showing the curse. Showing the betrayal. Showing the night Kael fell. Showing Seraphine standing behind it all. The truth hit like lightning. Lady Seraphine had created the curse. Lady Seraphine had destroyed the king. Lady Seraphine had framed her. And suddenly every piece of the puzzle clicked into place. The exile.
The lies.
The manipulation. Everything. The vision faded. Silence returned. But Elara remained standing inside the ruins.
Different.
Stronger. Awake. Her eyes slowly lifted toward the distant horizon. Toward Blackthorne. Toward the kingdom that cast her aside. Toward the king who broke her heart. Toward the enemy who stole everything. Snow swirled around her. Golden light danced across her skin. And for the first time since her exile, Elara smiled. Not the smile of a servant. Not the smile of a frightened girl. The smile of a woman returning for the truth. Because far away, the kingdom believed she was gone. Forgotten. Defeated. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The kingdom was dying. Not all at once. Not in a single battle or a single night. It was rotting from the inside. Like a wound left untreated. Like a heart poisoned slowly. Month after month, darkness spread across Blackthorne. Harvests failed. Trade routes collapsed. Entire villages vanished beneath unnatural storms. The rivers froze even during spring. The forests grew silent. Animals fled. And every night, monstrous howls echoed from the royal castle. The people whispered the same thing. The kingdom had lost its king, even though Kael still sat upon the throne. Because the man who ruled now was only a shadow of who he had once been.
A shell.
A prisoner. A monster wearing a crown. Inside the throne room, fear ruled where respect once lived. The great hall seemed darker than before. The stained-glass windows remained covered by permanent storm clouds. Even daylight struggled to enter. Kael sat motionless upon the throne. His black cloak draped across broad shoulders. His golden eyes burned brighter than ever. Not with life. With pain. The curse had become worse. Far worse. Dark veins crawled across his skin. His control weakened daily. Some mornings he woke with blood on his hands and no memory of what happened during the night. Other mornings he woke inside the dungeon. Chains wrapped around him once again. The monster growing stronger. The man growing weaker. And every day there was only one name inside his mind. Elara. The wound never healed. If anything, it became deeper. Because time had revealed something terrible. The castle felt empty without her. The dungeon felt empty without her. His soul felt empty without her. And no matter how hard he tried to bury the truth, he missed her. More than he had ever missed anyone. The realization haunted him. Because the further she disappeared into memory, the clearer his mistake became. Yet regret changed nothing. Regret never brought people back. Across the throne room, Lady Seraphine watched him carefully. The woman hid her satisfaction behind perfect elegance. Her plan was nearly complete. The nobles already obeyed her. The military increasingly followed her commands. The people feared her less than they feared the cursed king. Everything she wanted stood within reach. The throne. The kingdom. Absolute control. Only one obstacle remained.
Kael.
And he was already breaking. A small smile touched her lips.
Soon.
Very soon, that same evening, thunder rolled across the mountains. The kingdom's northern gates stood buried beneath mist and rain. The guards on duty barely noticed the lone traveler approaching through the storm. At first she appeared insignificant, a single figure wrapped in a dark cloak, walking alone, unafraid. The wind howled around her. Lightning flashed overhead. Yet she never slowed, never hesitated. Step by step, she approached the gates. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Something felt strange.
Wrong.
Powerful. Then the traveler lowered her hood, and both men immediately froze. Golden light flickered inside her eyes. Not brightly, not constantly, just enough. Enough to reveal what she had become. Elara Vale had returned. But she was no longer the frightened servant who had walked through those gates months earlier. The girl was gone. In her place stood a woman, confident,
Composed.
powerful. The wilderness had carved strength into every part of her. The loneliness had sharpened her spirit. The betrayal had transformed her. And the ancient power within her bloodline had finally awakened. The guards stepped aside without a word. Neither man understood why. Only that some instinct told them she belonged here. Far more than many nobles inside those walls. As the gates slowly opened, thunder cracked across the sky, almost as if destiny itself had announced her arrival. News spread through the castle within minutes. Servants whispered. Guards rushed through corridors. Nobles stared in disbelief. The impossible had happened. The exiled Omega had returned. By the time Elara entered the royal court, hundreds had gathered. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Everyone remembered her. Everyone remembered the exile. Everyone remembered the accusations. But something felt different now. The nobles who once mocked her no longer seemed intimidating. Not because they had changed. Because she had. Lady Seraphine rose immediately. The moment their eyes met, something dangerous passed between them. Recognition.
Truth. War.
For the first time, Elara saw genuine fear inside Seraphine's gaze. Only for a moment. But it was there. And that moment told her everything. The woman was guilty. The woman knew she was guilty. The woman knew the truth had arrived. Interesting, Seraphine said softly. Her smile never reached her eyes. The exile returns. Elara stepped forward. The court watched silently, waiting, holding its breath. The exile returns, Elara agreed. Her voice echoed through the chamber.
Calm.
Controlled. Dangerous. Because the kingdom deserves the truth. A ripple moved through the crowd. Seraphine's smile tightened. The truth. The truth. Elara raised her hand. Golden light ignited instantly. Gasps erupted. The ancient power surged through the hall. Runes appeared in midair. Ancient symbols. Living memories. Magic older than the kingdom itself. And suddenly, the past appeared. Not words. Not accusations. Evidence. Memories made visible. The entire court watched in stunned silence as images formed above the throne room.
Kael.
The curse. The betrayal. The night, everything changed. And standing at the center of it all, Lady Seraphine. The hall exploded into chaos. Nobles shouted. Guards drew weapons. Servants gasped. The truth could no longer be hidden. The kingdom finally saw what had really happened. Years of manipulation. Years of lies. Years of betrayal. All exposed within seconds. Across the room, Kael stared upward. Frozen. The memories reflected inside his golden eyes. Every detail. Every lie. Every deception. Every moment. And then he saw the final memory. The kingdom was dying. Not all at once. Not in a single battle or a single night. It was rotting from the inside. Like a wound left untreated. Like a heart poisoned slowly. Month after month, darkness spread across Blackthorne. Harvests failed. Trade routes collapsed. Entire villages vanished beneath unnatural storms. The rivers froze even during spring. The forests grew silent. Animals fled. And every night, monstrous howls echoed from the royal castle. The people whispered the same thing. The kingdom had lost its king. Even though Kael still sat upon the throne. Because the man who ruled now was only a shadow of who he had once been.
A shell.
A prisoner. A monster wearing a crown. Inside the throne room, fear ruled where respect once lived. The great hall seemed darker than before. The stained-glass windows remained covered by permanent storm clouds. Even daylight struggled to enter. Kael sat motionless upon the throne, his black cloak draped across broad shoulders. His golden eyes burned brighter than ever. Not with life, with pain. The curse had become worse. Far worse. Dark veins crawled across his skin. His control weakened daily. Some mornings he woke with blood on his hands and no memory of what happened during the night. Other mornings he woke inside the dungeon. Chains wrapped around him once again. The monster growing stronger. The man growing weaker. And every day there was only one name inside his mind. Elara. The wound never healed. If anything, it became deeper. Because time had revealed something terrible. The castle felt empty without her. The dungeon felt empty without her. His soul felt empty without her. And no matter how hard he tried to bury the truth, he missed her. More than he had ever missed anyone. The realization haunted him. Because the further she disappeared into memory, the clearer his mistake became. Yet regret changed nothing. Regret never brought people back. Across the throne room, Lady Seraphine watched him carefully. The woman hid her satisfaction behind perfect elegance. Her plan was nearly complete. The nobles already obeyed her. The military increasingly followed her commands. The people feared her less than they feared the cursed king. Everything she wanted stood within reach. The throne, the kingdom, absolute control. Only one obstacle remained.
Kael.
And he was already breaking. A small smile touched her lips.
Soon.
Very soon. That same evening, thunder rolled across the mountains. The kingdom's northern gates stood buried beneath mist and rain. The guards on duty barely noticed the lone traveler approaching through the storm. At first she appeared insignificant. A single figure wrapped in a dark cloak. Walking alone. Unafraid. The wind howled around her. Lightning flashed overhead. Yet she never slowed. Never hesitated. Step by step, she approached the gates. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. Something felt strange.
Wrong.
Powerful. Then the traveler lowered her hood. And both men immediately froze. Golden light flickered inside her eyes. Not brightly. Not constantly. Just enough. Enough to reveal what she had become. Elara Vale had returned. But she was no longer the frightened servant who had walked through those gates months earlier. The girl was gone. In her place stood a woman. Confident.
Composed.
Powerful. The wilderness had carved strength into every part of her. The loneliness had sharpened her spirit. The betrayal had transformed her. And the ancient power within her bloodline had finally awakened. The guards stepped aside without a word. Neither man understood why. Only that some instinct told them she belonged here. Far more than many nobles inside those walls. As the gates slowly opened, thunder cracked across the sky. Almost as if destiny itself had announced her arrival. News spread through the castle within minutes. Servants whispered. Guards rushed through corridors. Nobles stared in disbelief. The impossible had happened. The exiled Omega had returned. By the time Elara entered the royal court, hundreds had gathered. The atmosphere crackled with tension. Everyone remembered her. Everyone remembered the exile. Everyone remembered the accusations. But something felt different now. The nobles who once mocked her no longer seemed intimidating. Not because they had changed. Because she had. Lady Seraphine rose immediately. The moment their eyes met, something dangerous passed between them. Recognition.
Truth. War.
For the first time, Elara saw genuine fear inside Seraphine's gaze. Only for a moment. But it was there. And that moment told her everything. The woman was guilty. The woman knew she was guilty. The woman knew the truth had arrived. Interesting, Seraphine said softly. Her smile never reached her eyes. The exile returns. Elara stepped forward. The court watched silently, waiting, holding its breath. The exile returns, Elara agreed. Her voice echoed through the chamber.
Calm.
Controlled. Dangerous. Because the kingdom deserves the truth. A ripple moved through the crowd. Seraphine's smile tightened. The truth. The truth. Elara raised her hand. Golden light ignited instantly. Gasps erupted. The ancient power surged through the hall. Runes appeared in midair. Ancient symbols. Living memories. Magic older than the kingdom itself. And suddenly, the past appeared. Not words. Not accusations. Evidence. Memories made visible. The entire court watched in stunned silence as images formed above the throne room.
Kael.
The curse. The betrayal. The night, everything changed. And standing at the center of it all, Lady Seraphine. The hall exploded into chaos. Nobles shouted. Guards drew weapons. Servants gasped. The truth could no longer be hidden. The kingdom finally saw what had really happened. Years of manipulation. Years of lies. Years of betrayal. All exposed within seconds. Across the room, Kael stared upward. Frozen. The memories reflected inside his golden eyes. Every detail. Every lie. Every deception. Every moment. And then he saw the final memory. The sky broke apart above Blackthorne. Lightning tore through the heavens like cracks spreading across shattered glass. The royal castle trembled. Ancient towers groaned. Stone fractured beneath waves of dark magic. And all across the capital, people ran screaming into the streets. The storm was alive. Not a storm born from nature. A storm born from hatred. Born from obsession. Born from a curse that had poisoned an entire kingdom for years. At the center of it stood Lady Seraphine. Her elegant appearance had vanished completely. Dark energy twisted around her body. Black veins crawled across her skin. Her eyes glowed with unnatural violet fire. The beautiful royal advisor was gone. What remained was something far more terrifying. A woman consumed by power. Consumed by vengeance.
Consumed by madness.
Her laughter echoed through the collapsing throne room. You were never worthy of this kingdom, Kael. Dark lightning erupted from her hands. Columns exploded. Marble shattered. Guards were thrown across the hall, like leaves caught in a hurricane. The entire palace shook violently. Outside, enormous spirals of black clouds swallowed the moon. The capital descended into darkness. The end had begun. Kael stepped forward. The Alpha King stood between Seraphine and everyone else. Between darkness and his people. Between destruction and survival. For a brief moment, he looked exactly as the kingdom remembered him. Not broken. Not cursed. Not defeated. A king. A true king. Yet beneath that strength lived unbearable guilt. His eyes found Elara across the ruined throne room. She stood surrounded by golden light, her awakened power illuminating the darkness around her. Beautiful, powerful, untouchable, and seeing her alive hurt more than any wound, because he remembered the night she left, the heartbreak in her eyes, the silence after the exile. The realization came too late. He had become exactly what betrayal turned him into. A man who destroyed the only person who truly cared. The guilt threatened to drown him. But there was no time. The kingdom needed him. And for the first time in months, Kael understood something. Redemption wasn't earned through regret. It was earned through action. Through sacrifice. Through choosing differently. A violent roar exploded from the storm. The curse reacted. Dark energy surged through his veins. Pain ripped across his body. The wolf inside him awakened instantly.
Hungry.
Furious. Ancient. Seraphine smiled. You feel it, don't you? The darkness intensified. The curse belongs to you. Kael clenched his fists. His body trembled. Every muscle tightened. The transformation began. Black fur spread across his skin. Bones shifted. Magic erupted. The process was agony. Pure agony. Yet, he never looked away from the storm. Never stepped back. Never surrendered. Because this time he understood the truth. The monster was never his enemy. Fear was. The belief that he was unworthy of love. The belief that everyone would eventually leave. The belief that vulnerability meant weakness. Those lies had controlled him for years, and they had almost cost him everything, including her. The throne room exploded as the Alpha King transformed completely. The massive Black Wolf emerged once more, larger than ever before, more powerful than ever before. His golden eyes burned like twin suns. The sight terrified everyone, except Elara. She looked at the beast and saw only Kael, only the wounded man hidden beneath centuries of pain, only the soul she refused to abandon. The wolf lunged. The battle began. Darkness collided with darkness. Power shook the kingdom. Every impact cracked stone. Every roar shattered windows. The storm above Blackthorne intensified. Seraphine unleashed wave after wave of forbidden magic. Entire towers collapsed. The castle groaned under impossible strain. Yet Kael continued fighting, not because he believed he could win, because he refused to let anyone else suffer for his mistakes. The realization changed everything. For years he ruled through strength. Now he fought through love. And that made him far more dangerous. Meanwhile, Elara felt something awakening deep inside her soul. The ancient bloodline. The forgotten magic. The connection. The bond. For months she had sensed it. The invisible thread tying her to Kael. The reason her song calmed him. The reason her presence healed him. The reason fate kept bringing them back together. Now she finally understood. It was a soul bond. Ancient.
Rare.
Powerful. Not created by magic. Created by destiny itself. The realization flooded through her like sunlight. Memories flashed before her eyes. The dungeon. The lullaby. The first time he whispered her name. The first time he trusted her. The first time she saw the broken man beneath the monster. Every moment led here. Every choice. Every heartbreak. Every sacrifice. And suddenly she knew exactly what she needed to do. Far above the throne room, at the center of the storm, the curse pulsed like a living heart. Black lightning spiraled around a vortex of darkness. The source. The origin. The final chain. Destroying it would end everything. Or kill whoever tried. Elara looked upward. Then began walking.
Toward the storm.
Toward certain death.
Toward destiny.
Kael saw her immediately. The wolf roared. A desperate sound. A warning.
A plea.
But Elara continued forward. Because this was never his battle alone. It belonged to both of them. The storm screamed around her. Dark magic clawed at her skin. The air itself fought to stop her. Yet she kept moving. One step. Then another. Then another. Golden light spread from her body. Brighter. Stronger. Warmer. The darkness recoiled. For the first time, Seraphine looked afraid. "What are you doing?" Elara ignored her. Instead, she closed her eyes and began to sing. The lullaby. The same lullaby. The song her mother taught her. The song that soothed a monster. The song that awakened a king. The song that started everything. Soft notes drifted through the storm. At first they seemed insignificant, fragile, tiny. Then the impossible happened. The storm slowed. Lightning weakened. Dark clouds hesitated. The curse recognized the melody, recognized the bloodline, recognized the ancient power hidden inside her soul. Elara continued singing. Tears filled her eyes. Not from fear. From love. From forgiveness. From hope. Every note carried a memory. Every word carried healing. The entire kingdom seemed to listen. And for the first time in years, silence touched the darkness. Kael felt it immediately. The rage vanished. The pain weakened. The curse trembled. The wolf looked toward Elara. Toward the woman standing inside a hurricane of darkness. Toward the woman risking everything for him. And suddenly something broke. Not the curse. Him. The walls. The armor. The fear. The years of loneliness. All of it shattered. Because nobody had ever fought for him before. Nobody had ever stayed. Nobody except her. The realization nearly destroyed him. A deep, aching love surged through every part of his soul. Powerful, terrifying, beautiful. And for the first time in his life, he embraced it, completely, without fear, without shame, without resistance. I love you. The words escaped into the storm.
Raw. Honest. True.
The soul bond exploded with light. Golden energy erupted across the sky. The connection fully awakened. Elara's power merged with Kael's. Light and darkness intertwined. The king and the Omega. The monster and the healer. Two broken souls becoming whole. The curse screamed. Literally screamed. Ancient magic shattered. Chains invisible to the world exploded into fragments. The vortex collapsed. The storm unraveled. And Seraphine finally understood. She had already lost. Not because Kael was stronger. Not because Elara was stronger. Because love was stronger. The very thing she never understood. The darkness turned on her instantly. Forbidden magic demanded payment. The curse consumed its creator. Seraphine screamed as shadows wrapped around her body. For one brief moment, fear replaced arrogance. Then she vanished.
Gone.
Swallowed by the darkness she created. Silence followed. True silence. The storm disappeared. The clouds parted. Moonlight returned. And the kingdom was saved. Then Kael collapsed. The curse was gone. But so was his strength. The wolf disappeared. The king fell. Broken. Motionless. Blood stained the stone beneath him. The battle was over. His body could endure no more. Elara's heart stopped.
No.
She ran. Fell beside him. Gathered his head into her lap. His eyes barely opened.
Weak.
Fading. Yet still searching for her. Always her. You stay with me. Her voice trembled. Tears streamed down her face. You promised. Kael smiled weakly. A small smile. The kind he reserved only for her. I broke promises before. Not this one. The words shattered. I won't let you. Golden light poured from her hands. The healing gift awakened fully. Not as a servant. Not as an exile. Not as an Omega. As who she truly was. The heir of an ancient healing bloodline. The light entered Kael's chest. Mended wounds. Repaired damage. Restored what the curse had stolen. Minute after minute she poured everything into him.
Love.
Hope. Life. Until finally, his heartbeat strengthened. His breathing steadied. His eyes opened completely.
Alive.
The relief nearly made her collapse. Kael lifted a trembling hand. Touched her cheek. And, for the first time since they met, there were no bars between them. No curse. No throne. No exile. Nothing. Only two souls. Together.
At last.
Months later, spring returned to Blackthorne. Flowers bloomed where snow once ruled. Children laughed in the streets again. Markets reopened. The kingdom healed. And so did its king. The coronation filled the capital with celebration. People gathered from every corner of the realm. Not merely to honor Kael, but to honor the woman who saved them all. Elara Vale, the forgotten Omega, the exiled servant, the healer, the queen. As the crown settled upon her head, the crowd erupted into cheers. Yet Elara's attention remained elsewhere, on the man standing beside her. Kael looked nothing like the monster once hidden beneath the castle. Yet traces remained. Not in appearance, in wisdom, in humility, in understanding, because he never forgot what darkness felt like. And because he never forgot who pulled him from it. That night, long after celebrations ended, moonlight filled the royal balcony. The kingdom slept peacefully below. Kael stood beside Elara, one arm wrapped around her waist, holding her close, protecting her, not because she needed protection, because he simply loved having her near. The wind carried the scent of spring flowers. The stars glittered overhead. And for a while neither spoke. Then Kael smiled. A genuine smile. Rare. Precious. The kind only she could create. Sing it. Elara laughed softly. You still ask. Always. His golden eyes warmed. That song saved my life. She leaned against him, then quietly began singing. The familiar lullaby drifted into the night. The same song that calmed a monster. The same song that awakened a king. The same song that changed a kingdom. And beneath a sky finally free of darkness, the Alpha King closed his eyes and listened. Not as a ruler, not as a warrior, not as a monster, simply as a man who had finally found home. The End Wolf face crowned crescent moon red heartfire.